Hey again, it's Drew Hudson from Power Through Consulting. Another training video, this time showing you your newsletter email template. So again, this should be repeat if you watched the action one already, but where we find these is under the email blast tab, and it's under email template subheading. If you want to see the list, click list email templates. And the one we're talking about in this video is the newsletter email template. Click on that to come look at it. And again, we have this set up with default content in the HTML section. This is all editable in the main email editing tool. So you can change all this stuff as you go. And we assume you will each time. You won't actually send emails that say section header number 2. You'll write your own headlines. But if you want to make semi-permanent changes, change the logo, for example, to a new logo, or maybe your address changes in the footer, you would come into the templates section here and you make those changes in this particular format so that they're reproduced each time you make a new newsletter email. And you can also preview the email just to get a sense of what it looks like in a basic web browser. So that'll give you a pretty good idea. Things do change a little bit between the various email clients, but this will give you a pretty good idea how things are shaping up. So to use it, we would come into the main email tab and either click Create Blast, or you can go to the main landing tab and create a blast from there. Once you're there, you're going to select the newsletter email template and hit Save, or if you copied from a previous one, Save and Continue. And here again, the main HTML editing areas where you'll do most of your work. You can change the subject line, because I was using a previous test. Good tip. The way that these are set up, if you copy and recycle from a different template, because all that text is editable, it will bring in the old template. So we do want to create a new blast. Leave that in because that's a teaching edit, teaching error. So here I just set up a second test email. I've selected the newsletter template, and when I hit Save and Continue, now it'll come in because there was no other content there before. I didn't copy this from anything. I made a new email. Now when it loads up, it should have all of the newsletter content there. So just like with our action email template, everything in here is editable. You can go right in and change the logo. This little block at the top is just text, so if you want to change where the paragraph break is or change the wording in there, you can do that. The newsletter template in particular does have a lot more sort of pre-formatted things. So our usual recommendation is, it's fine to write the content, the copy that goes in here in a different editor like Word or Google Docs or whatever. But when you come in, we recommend pasting things individually. So if you had a headline, so say, I'm just going to write it in here so you can see, but say this is my newsletter headline and I'd written that in Google Docs or Microsoft Word or whatever, instead of copying the whole paragraph with the headline and then some body text, let's say down below that, and especially we want to remove any formatting. We had like bolding or links in the text or things like that. The way I would go about doing this, copying from Word, is I would copy whatever my headline text is, put it in this section, and again, you can use Shift Option Command V on the Mac or Shift Control V on the PC and just paste that as text. That way you'll keep the formatting, all the styles of these headlines will stay the same, but your new text will come in. And same thing with the body text. When you go to paste it in there, come into this section or down below, say I'm placing this stuff, and paste as plain text. You can use the paste from Word editor, or you can paste it into a neutral text editing program like Notepad. Before you do that, same basic effect. And if you do, end up deleting a whole headline, it's not the end of the world. You can see it'll, oh no, now I've messed up my thing. But most of these are just the native styles in Salsa. So I can flip that back to normal text, or if I wanted these first couple words to be a headline, I can come in, select that paragraph and say, let's make that one. And you can change the size of the fonts and things like that all in here. So everything is still controllable by you to save yourself the most amount of time, especially where we're doing a lot in this newsletter template of changing the color of different section headers, changing the layout of things. It might just be easier to paste things in, the headline separate from the body text, and then insert your images afterwards, just like you normally would using the WYSIWYG tool. So just using that kind of stepped process will keep the formatting a little bit more consistent. We have these little place kitten images in here just as a way to hold the space and show you a preview of how the layout looks with pictures in there. You can delete those, or if you want, you can just select them and then click the image properties button in the WYSIWYG up here. And you can see right there, there's a spot to either insert a new one or click Browse from Server, and that'll pop up the window that lets you select from images you've already uploaded to Salsa. And there's also an option at the bottom of that window to upload a new file to Salsa. So that should all be pretty familiar if you've used Salsa's WYSIWYG before. But just to say, you can totally do that. And that's our suggested way for how to replace these kitten images in the final version, is to pick the images you want to use in your newsletter and then change stuff that way. One last thing, as with the action email template, there is a little hidden line of code at the very top, which affects what appears just after the subject line. So in most email readers like Gmail or Yahoo, what the person would see is newsletter subject line and then a little break. And then if we didn't do anything, the next thing they would see is view this email in your browser, which is not necessarily the most compelling text. So to find, we've hidden it so it doesn't mess up your layout. But the way to find it is near the very top. You would just search for this text. This is where you add your intro text. And just like with the action email template, we've pre-written something that says urgent update from the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. You can change that to be either specific content about this particular copy of the newsletter. So you might say the summer update for USCPR donors and members. Or you might say, urgent update about our campaign in Palestine. Whatever you want, you can just put it right in there in the source code. And then it'll be invisible for users, but it will show up in there. And the easy way to find it is just to search for that description text we added. I'll put a link to that in the documentation as well, so you can just copy and paste that. And then when you do a Command F or Control F to search in your browser, this would be findable. Oops. Search for the wrong text. So just using my Firefox browser, it pulls me to and highlights that text, so it makes it easy to find. One other note I didn't mention in the action email template, but you do always need to have a text version. Almost everyone gets HTML email these days, but it particularly relates to your spam score having a text version. And excuse me, especially with this newsletter template, which has a lot more formatting and tables and stuff to it. When you click auto-generate from HTML, you get a lot of extra formatting stuff, not a ton necessarily, but you just get a lot of extra paragraph breaks. So good idea, once the newsletter is fully written in your HTML section, so you have all the text there and all the images you want and all the links and things, click auto-generate text from HTML, and then just do a little cleanup, basically deleting. You may not need the link to your main homepage there. You may want to skip some of these things, like this is our hidden intro text, does show up in text readers. And then mostly we're just deleting a lot of additional paragraph breaks. These are created by all the tables and things we use to format the emails to keep it looking consistent between different HTML reading versions. But then they show up as basically a bunch of different paragraph breaks in here. So you can figure out how to make that look best for you, but we do suggest you have an HTML and a text version for every email you send. And this more styled newsletter template may need a little extra formatting in the text content. We did not include, we did include a preview email in your browser for the newsletter links. We don't have the share buttons down at the very bottom, but the principles are the same. So if you want this link at the top to preview this email in your browser to work right, On the Send Options tab, you do need to check this box to add to web page. And again, what that's doing is it's putting the blast in your blast archives over here. And then once the email is sent, it adds it to this page with a date stamp and then a link. And all we're doing is adding, automatically merging in the blast key for it. So by checking that box on the second or third tab, you make sure that the email gets indexed in here. And then when people click on that preview email, this is what view this email in their browser. This is where they'll be taken as to this particular link. So you can see it looks just like that. So that should be it for the newsletter email preview. If you have any questions or if there are other things that you want added to this particular template, or if there's a content area that you keep wishing you had so that it's easier to reproduce newsletter to newsletter, send me an email at drew@powerthroughconsulting, and we're happy to add that or add some additional changes for you. But this should be ready to use whenever you are.